Dear Rockstar, you are so lucky to be here today. Well, and so am I. Janelle, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Janel Young, founder of Nava Pets.
Nava Pets.
Nava Pets, but so much more than founder of Nava Pets. When I met you, I was watching you at an event I asked you to come and be a panelist on, and I immediately felt this strength inside of you, and I thought, I got to know this woman's story. You've been there and done it, huh?
Yes, that's an understatement.
So tell us, for people that don't know you and Nava Pets, give us a little context. Tell us what Nava Pets is, a little bit about the story.
Nava Pets, we create products in an organic and eco-friendly fashion. We provide organic alternatives to resolve common pet issues.
So pet products.
That's correct.
Organic pet products.
Yes. And it started because my dog was having a severe skin allergies as well as a flea problem. And at that time, I was going through surgery, recovering from surgery. And I said, she's miserable, I'm miserable. And I said, something has to be out here. In investigating and researching, I realized that a lot of problems that dogs and cats have is a result of topical treatments and flea and tick collars. And that really just shook me up. And I said, I have
the problems were the products we were using.
Absolutely. 80% of organ failure for cats and dogs is a result of topical treatment and flea and tick collars.
80%?
80% of cause of death or organ failure.
Okay, so let's go back, and we'll get to the part about your surgery. But so you're recovering, and your dog's got
Fleas, yes.
So did you just start making this in the kitchen sink?
Yes, absolutely.
Did you go to the internet? I mean, how do you start making a pet product?
Well, because of my own change of lifestyle, I realized that there were certain herbal ingredients that we use that can also be used on pets. Okay. And as a result, I looked for different trends that I could blend together and say, all right, let me do like a little flea powder sort of thing that I could do at home. And the reason why is because I wasn't really mobile at that time. And as a result, I said, wow, this works. It worked. It worked on her. It worked on me because I was suffering because she was suffering.
You didn't put the actual tick.
I sure
did. You put it on you.
I sure did.
Because it was natural.
It was natural.
So
because
what's the primary natural ingredient in a natural tick and flea
Well,
product?
we use ingredients like lavender, rosemary, diatomaceous earth.
Okay.
So at that time, I felt like if it was safe for her, it should be safe for me. So I tried it on first.
This is like integrity in product at the whole next level. That's what I remember. You said something about eating your dog food.
Yes, I do that as well. The treats, yes, absolutely.
So it started with the tick stuff. If you could put it on yourself.
Yes.
And it worked.
And it worked. And I realized that if it worked on me, it would work on her. And so as a result, I said, this does work. So I started talking to friends and family and say, look, I have this new idea. What do you think? And they was like, this could really work. And so then it started with humble beginnings, like going to farmers markets or events, anybody who I could talk to.
And just making it in your house?
Making it.
Just the tick and flea
That's
product
correct.
First?
And giving it away to friends, family, and anyone who's willing to try it.
Did you ask them to put it on their own bodies?
No, I would do that.
I'm like, okay, I'm family, but I'm not that. I don't really love
Exactly.
you that much.
I mean, I knew I could do it for myself, but I wouldn't want to impose on anyone else to do that. And so it started picking up speed from that. I started selling in farmers markets, and then I said, okay, I need a website. Let's see if I could reach people that way. And then from there, I started getting involved at the National Entrepreneurship Center in Orlando. And I met a lot of mentors through SCORE, through Navo, African American Chambers, and they encouraged me and said, you know what, you really have a unique idea and that you shouldn't just sit on it, you need to run with it. that got me going and building a business plan, because that's really a foundation in starting any business.
So you wrote a business plan. Did you get into a competition or something?
Yes, as a result, that was the after effect. But the main purpose was I wanted to know my vision on paper and understand where
Which
I
is
was
what?
going. My vision is to provide health and wellness for all pets. It's treating your best friend naturally. That's really the mission and the vision that we go with.
So how have pets been like in your life? What's the story there?
Well, ever since I was little, I've always had dog, cat, chickens, hamsters, birds, you name it. It's just been a part of my family. And I found comfort in having pets because during the times that you really can't talk to others, you feel that they have a connection and they're able to communicate but not communicate to you. And as a result of that, I've always had a love and passion for pets. I just never thought that it would take it to this extent with coming out with an organic product line.
So you have a problem, you create a product for it. You've always loved pets. What were some of the key moments? How long ago was that? And what have been some of the key moments for you in your journey so far?
Well, the concept began in 2011, and I started my business in 2013. Thanks to some of those business plan competitions, that really provided the engine for me to move and say, okay, this product does have some credibility and people can benefit from it. As a result of that, we started with the flea and tick, and then it evolved into oil treatments for pet allergies, ear treatments. We also expanded into organic and natural treats, as well as providing grooming products such as our liquid shampoo and our organic dry conditioning shampoo.
So a whole line now.
Absolutely.
And where is it distributed? Online primarily or?
Fortunately, we're in online. We also sell wholesale, and this year we've expanded into drop shipping. So we actually have a number of e-commerce retailers that list our products, and then they sell it. So
Okay.
it's really been a wonderful blend. I enjoy that because it's catching on very quickly that people can say, wow, I can provide something for my pet. It doesn't have the side effects. It really is just simple. It's pure and simple.
So you talk about health and wellness, and I know you've had your own journey of health and wellness. So talk to us a little bit about the challenges you've had that kind of led you to a place where you started this.
It began for me because I had been ill for a long time. I had some challenges with my kidneys as well as my heart. And that
From a really common thing that any of us could have had.
absolutely.
Right?
It started with a cold, and then I was misdiagnosed, and then it resulted of a severe reaction from pneumonia.
So it went into pneumonia.
Yes. And as a result, it became acute organ failure. So
You know, I think we just don't understand how serious a cold can get. And
absolutely.
especially if it's misdiagnosed.
Absolutely. And it wasn't that I didn't try seeing the doctor or trying to get answers. But when you don't know and you feel helpless because you're in so much pain, you don't know how to describe it to someone, and you're just saying, is this going to end? And in my case, what I thought would be a few months actually turned into a number of years.
Wow. So you end up, pneumonia goes to organ failure.
It can be. It can be.
And so what was your journey through that?
As a result of that, I end up having acute kidney failure as well as congestive heart failure.
Now you're working during this time?
I was working in another field, and as a result of that, I had to abruptly sell my business, sell my home, and relocate.
So how has that journey through, because you've had a kidney transplant too,
That's
right?
correct.
So this journey through a couple years of losing your health.
Yes.
Right? What were the learnings from that? How has that informed what you're doing now?
It's really changed my heart about just really taking in the simple things of life. Sometimes we get so busy and caught in schedules that we really just don't take time for ourselves. Really connecting to other people, seeing people in need, and really trying your best to do something about it. I lived in a world previously that you say it, but you don't really mean it. You say it in maybe going to a charity event or supporting a cause, but you're not really rolling up your sleeves and saying, I'm here to help you. I have your back.
Do you feel like that's who you were before?
Yes, I was that type of person previously. I was caught up in a lot of titles and material things like that. And then once this came into my life, it kind of just showed another side. People suffering in silence, people don't have a voice, being caught up in a system that you don't know if you're going to get proper treatment. You don't know if the doctors that are tend to be taking care of you, you don't know if you're being provided the best treatment. And you have to just say, okay, this is what I can afford. And so it really transformed me to understand that life is very precious.
Wow.
It
Because
also,
you're young going through
yes,
this.
absolutely. It's happened in my 20s. So,
And like, did you get mad? Did you get rail against God, or like, did it feel? And how did you deal with the unfairness of? Or
well,
did
first
it feel unfair?
for me, it was a state of shock because you're like, this can't be happening. I must be dreaming. This is a nightmare. And then you realize after that, it is a reality. And then you become angry because you're thinking all the plans that you've had, and you don't know now if those plans are going to come true. And at that time, I wasn't married. I didn't have any children. I just had my dogs. And I'm thinking, I don't even know how long I'm going to live, because there were times that I didn't think I would make it the next day.
Wow.
So when you think of that and you know that life and death, you're right at that door, you realize that I want to live every moment. I want to try to connect to every person the best way I know how, because I may not get that second chance. And so as a result of that, that's kind of how I've lived my life today as a result of that. The product line is more of an after effect of taking care of a problem that at that time my dog was a connecting factor in my life. She was there.
Because you had your kidney transplant. Were you on the other side of your kidney transplant?
Yes, I was in recovery, and as a result, but she had seen those things beforehand. She's seen the quiet moments when I'm in the dark and I don't know if I can even get up. And so as a result, she was and always will be a part of my family. And I knew, just like anyone else, I want to make sure that my family is taken care of. And so the product began as a passion for me to say, I want to be able to take care of my family. And it's just so happened that my family is a 4-legged person versus a 2-legged person.
Well, I think that's why people connect so powerfully to you and what you're doing, because a lot of people feel that their animals are their family, and to have this stewardship of the products and to care about them and the health, right,
Absolutely.
is like an extension of their own values. It's like pretty powerful. I think it's like, it was really difficult, but I walked through my own mom passing really young, and sometimes, as hard as that was, I think when you get really close to that line of life and death, I mean, because we're all like dying, right? But we live in this world that acts like we're not. So I think there's some real power when you can bring that awareness that we're all we're moving on. We're on this planet for a really short time. How good can we make that time for others?
I see it as that every person has an assignment, and you have a choice to either complete it or turn away from it. Each of us of giving that assignment, we have to make a decision. Are we willing to listen? And lots of people go through life and they don't listen. They don't step up to the call, whatever that may be. And as a result, I feel like I got a second chance to step up to what I was called to do.
And your assignment
Is to be in the marketplace. That is my assignment. To be able to bring forth effective change. And it just so happens it's done through pets, but because pets take and connect to people in such a large way like music does, then I know that's how I'm connecting to people. I really get excited with the testimonies that people say, look, my dog or my cat was having this bad reaction, and we just felt so relieved that we saw your product. And as a result, we know that it's going to be okay. And I do that because I want to educate people. I do that because I want people to know there are alternatives out there. You just don't have to take whatever someone says.
right.
Educate yourself. Just like you read ingredients for your own food or your own products that you put on, then you should do the same for pets.
Yeah. What are some of the spiritual practices, or what are some things you've learned to get through challenging moments, whether it's your own body or it's your business?
I think you have to stay true to who you are. Surround yourself with the right types of people. You'll be surprised how much people walk by and they're so toxic. They're toxic spiritually, they're toxic mentally, and lots have to do with who are they connected with. And my illness was a result of really finding out who's really my friend. I end up losing so many people in my life. And at first it was like, well, I would never think that this person or that person would do that to me. But as I evolved, I found that I was breathing more life.
Wow. So many gems there. So toxic people.
All the time.
Talk about that.
I see people all the time because I've been there. I see people who just go through the motions. They don't even know how toxic they are. And a lot of it is because when we talk to people, when we feel like we're in relationship with someone, we don't know how powerful someone's words and how much we internalize that. And when you're not in the right zone that your purpose is, then you become off course.
Wow. So if I'm not living in my assignment, if I'm not in my kind of sweet spot and bringing to the world whatever my mojo is,
Yes,
I'm naturally going to be a little off or toxic.
absolutely. You'll find that when you're not in your zone, things become harder for you because you're not flowing the way your body is designed to flow.
But so many times, and I know that I have certainly been there, there's this thing of when you're not getting the flow and the doors aren't opening, inside the little critic, work harder, work harder. You know, I used to think that it was all about working harder, versus sometimes you're just supposed to move over to the right or the left and keep moving because maybe it's not supposed to be all hard work, but maybe this is not the road you're supposed to be on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it also makes you think more so, what is my next step? You find yourself, you're not in a rush to get things done. And because we come from a society that everything is 24/7, you know, social media, how we care for our family, children. And then when you find that you're burnt out, that's a sign that you're not in your zone.
So what are some of the spiritual practices you do to stay in your zone and to stay away from, I mean, you like watch for toxicity in terms of people, but are there any other practices you have? I mean, of shutting off your technology, or like, it sounds to me like you have really strong spirit, and I'm just wondering if there's things that have helped you grow spiritually.
What helped me grow spiritually is one is prayer. Prayer keeps me rooted, and it also provides me the light that I need to take my next steps. My steps are ordered. When you allow yourself to have your steps ordered, then it's very easy to flow because you're doing a marathon, you're not doing a sprint. Secondly, I've learned to love people where they're at. You always are responsible to love your neighbor as yourself, but it doesn't mean they have to be in your inner circle. I learned the difference between that. So I cherish the people that are in my inner circle. They see the good, they see the bad in me. And then when I connect to other people, I'm able to release that love to them unconditionally to take them where they're at. It could be for a season, it could be long term, whatever it may be. And so you find that people say, well, there's something different about you. And you can't even really explain it. You just know that you're grounded where you're at. And so if someone's connecting to me naturally, then that means I'm in my zone. When you find that you're not really connecting to people, then somewhere we're off course.
So you had life before entrepreneurship, LBE, and life after entrepreneurship.
Absolutely, because when you find that life and death is in front of you, you don't have time to waste. You don't have time to be wasteful. And so I found myself to be more direct. I found myself to really cherish the relationships I do have, the connections I have. My attitude is I am grateful. I'm thankful. Any opportunity, small or large, when you have a mindset that you can be grateful where you're at, whether you're low in the valley or top in the mountain, then you find that you can be planted anywhere and you can really be a game changer. It doesn't matter if your company is worth $50 or $50 million. If you're changing the environment that you're in, then you are a game changer.
Wow. So what has been the biggest challenge in your business?
Biggest challenge in your business, in my business, has been keeping up with demand, manufacturing to scale to fulfill that demand, but also keep a competitive edge as far as pricing, how the product is presented. It's constantly on my mind because when you are a startup company, you don't have access to the millions and dollars,
right,
where you can just call a PR firm or you can call a videographer or even call a manufacturer. You have to be creative. You're constantly always thinking outside the box. And that is a constant challenge.
That's the challenge.
Yes, absolutely.
Like how do we grow and the resourcing of that growth?
Resources is the central hub of your business. When you don't have enough cash flow, then it stifles your business. You have to learn how to balance the resources that's been given to you because you can't go to the next level if you don't take care of where you're at.
And especially in a consumer product, right? I had a consumer hair care line. So these are capital intensive businesses, right? You got to get the packages, yes, you got to get the ingredients before you have the sales. And then sometimes the term is 30, 45 days.
Yes.
So the cash flow thing can be 90 to 120 days, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is a challenge because you're basically financing yourself for each deal that you do. And then you have to wait for those proceeds to come in. But still you have day-to-day operations that you're responsible for. So it is a juggling act that you have to do daily.
So you had a brokerage company and a real estate company, and then now you've got this consumer, like it's different, the model's different.
It's like night and day.
Yeah, what's been your biggest learning?
My biggest learning is you're still working with people.
No, it's not dog. No. It's not pet food or it's not pet products. It's people still.
Yes, you'll never get away from that. It's just It's a different field of people, but you're still working with people. You, even with when I did other businesses, it's always the same bottom line. You're becoming a solution provider for a problem, for a challenge that person has. And as a result of that, you realize that it's always the same. I'm providing a service, a product, a solution for a person who has a problem, an issue with their pet. Even though the pet is at the center focus of my line, it is the human person that makes that decision, whether or not they feel the product is worth, or whether they feel the product can really bring forth change that they're expecting.
So what are you learning about people?
I'm learning that people, especially in the pet industry, it's almost like healthcare. We've taken so long and granted that professionals are leading us the right way.
That they are really truly the advocate. Maybe we've given up our advocacy of ourselves and our
I
animals?
feel that we've done that. You have to have a balance. Professionals are there because they do provide a service. That's what they go to school for, that's the training. But you also need to know that you're a smart individual and take both of those gifts and make more informative decisions.
So what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self, if I had to do it over again, is don't be in a hurry. Take your time. When you take your time, you make less mistakes.
Wow.
I would also tell my younger self is that sometimes delays are not meant to take you out. Delays sometimes are really to shape you for you to be successful in the next level.
Wow. Is there a book that has a big impact on you or that you often give away as a gift?
Actually, no. I'm more connected to a lot of articles.
Okay, so where do you go for your inspiration?
I like reading stuff through Forbes. I also enjoy reading stuff through Black Enterprise. I love stories. When I read articles, I'm connected to the story. When I read about a person's life or even see them on YouTube, it's their story that I'm attracted to. The product or the service is an afterthought.
Yeah.
If I can feel connected to who you are, then I know that your product or service will be fine.
Wow. What would you say to young women out there, like going back and forth on whether they should start something? You know, they have a lot of doubt. What would you say specifically to young women?
Assess who you really are at that moment. Be honest with yourself. List your strengths and your weakness. Why? Your strengths already tell you that you don't need help in those areas. You can carry that. Your weaknesses are more of a challenge because it's going to require people that you're connected to bring you out of those. And so if I had to do it over again and I'm just graduating from college, then I would realize, okay, if I'm going to start a business, these are my areas of weakness. I need to connect myself to a friend, to a mentor, to a family member to help me with this. Because we're not islands. We're designed to be interconnected with people. Their lives bring us together, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so if we get that, sometimes, look, I know that I'm not a millennial, but I find a disservice sometimes with social media because it allows people to be so disconnected. I think about when I was growing up that you didn't, when you got home, it was the highlight of your day after school was playing in the street, playing outside with your friends, not really getting on your smartphone or getting on your tablet. And I find that a lot of young people, they miss out on that.
Being together, just the connected that comes from a trusting relationship. Right?
Absolutely. And so by the time they become an adult and they're going to get their first job, they lose out on those skills. and they're years behind because they don't know where to start. They don't know how to be genuine when you meet a person. Everything is more scripted.
Yeah. So your definition of success?
My definition of success is being happy at the moment where you're at.
Wow. Say that again.
Being happy at the moment where you're at. Because if you're satisfied with yourself, everything that is connected to you is successful. When you're not satisfied with yourself, then there is a disconnect.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if someone tells me that I'm successful. If I can't look in the mirror myself and say that about me, then I'll never be happy.
Wow. As we start to wind this up, if you were talking to people that are running their own businesses right now, and based on the learnings you've had and trying to make a life they love, being successful in the moment, but doing what their assignment is, right?
Absolutely.
What would 3 pieces of advice you would give them in closing?
Be honest. Do things unto excellence. Don't chase money. Money will come to you. If you have an excellent product, it will come to you. I am amazed how many doors are open for me, and it's not even anything that I'm actively pursuing. It's because the product speaks for itself. So, because I almost died 3 times.
Right.
And when you are like in that state, you're not thinking about how many cars you have, what's in your closet. You're thinking, okay, making sure you're making peace with yourself and making peace with your family. Nothing else matters.
Wow.
Nothing else matters.
And just sitting next to you, you brought that into, I can feel it in your presence. I could feel it when I was sitting and you were one of the panelists. And you brought it into your work. So we were talking about your 3 pieces of advice. It was be honest, do everything to excellence, and
persevere. And the reason why I said to persevere is because with any road of greatness, there's always going to be valleys. I learn now when I see those challenges, it's not because somebody's out to get me. There's a part of me that needs to die in order to conquer the next level.
Wow, I just want to stay here and talk with you for 3 more hours. The people that are listening are going, yeah, girlfriend, you rock. Oh, so where do we go buy all the Nava Pet stuff we can?
Well, you can, of course, check it out on our website, which is navapets.com. Also, we're on Amazon, we're on Open Sky, we're on many other channels. There's lots of other retailers that sell through eBay, other companies we work with. So Google Nava Pets and it'll show.
And then you on social, do you have social? Can we
Yes.
hit you up on social?
Yes, Nava Pets is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. And so all of it is Nava Pets, Navapets, at Nava Pets.
Janelle, what a blessing. Thank you for sharing your story and being so real with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
You are a rock star.